It's Chris Kuzmal. We're going to talk about comments, and then we're going to try and talk about constructors when it comes to mutable variables today. On line 24, 25, and 26, you have three basic kinds of comments. Line 26 has to do with Java doc. You can look it up, but you're not going to be tested on this other than that you should know that stuff inside of comments is ignored by the compiler. Another thing is that what do you put into comments, and what kinds of things are you going to see in comments on the test? On the test, they're going to have some fancy terms like precondition. And a precondition is a guarantee about what is going on almost always with respect to the arguments of the method. And a precondition that this is a constructor as opposed to a method, but it also can have a precondition. The precondition that this constructor assumes is that R has a length of at least one. It has at least one element because it makes ratings equal to R, which is not a good practice, by the way, which is something we'll talk about. But even so, it sets the 0th element of ratings to a value, and that means it's assuming the passed-in array has a length that is at least 1. If the array was of length 0, then this would produce an error, okay? And so we would want in our comments to say, as a precondition, R has length at least 1. Okay. A post condition would be something that we guarantee about what happens at the end, and the post condition for this particular constructor would be that the 0th element of the array has a value of 100, and you would also write that into your comments. You'd say post condition. Don't worry about the spelling right now. Ratings of 0 equals 100. Notice I put double equals because I'm doing a comparison. Condition. So these are things that you need to be aware of when you're looking at the test, because they'll be asking you to write methods that satisfy the preconditions and satisfy the postconditions. And if you satisfy them, you're going to get points, even if other elements of your code are broken. Okay, now for a constructor, this constructor is going to lose points if you try to, if this no matter what APCS test question you're going to be in, this constructor is going to lose points, both because you probably are not going to have this precondition. You never have this as a precondition for a well-designed code. And the other thing is that R is mutable, but nevertheless, even we're creating what's called an alias here by setting the field ratings equal to R, and then we're modifying ratings, but that's also going to modify R, and that is not allowed on the APCS test. You can have the same problem if you have an array list as an argument. As a practical matter, on the APCS test, if you have an array that's passed into a constructor, or you have an array list that's passed into a constructor, do not assign a field to the argument in the way that's highlighted on line 34 or that's highlighted on line 29, even though you certainly may do exactly the same thing when the argument is a string or an integer or a floating point number. We don't have an example for a floating point number. And the reason is that these arguments are not mutable. Okay, a string and an integer are not mutable, but an array and array list are mutable. And the difference between mutable and unmutable is beyond the scope of this discussion and not critical for your success on the APCS test. What you need to know is don't modify arrays, don't modify array lists, and don't alias them by doing this. You'll need to create a copy. That's something that is covered in other lectures on exactly how to do that.